What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Ooh, it is hotter than a black leather seat in a convertible today. Yowza. So here's what's happening. We're going to be covering off a few things today. We're going to be talking about steps needed to take to make sure your lawn is in good shape before you head out of town. So let's go ahead and roll that intro.
What's up, everybody?
All right, so you're heading out of town. Much like many of us, you've just been cooped up and it's time to go. That's what's happening for me, so that's what I'm doing today, is getting this thing ready to be on its own and self-sufficient for the next week. So here's what we're gonna do first. We gotta mow it, number one. Okay, so that's done. It's not quite done. Let me just, I can't leave little long things hanging like that. That's not gonna work for me. Let me get this done real quick. That's better. Okay, feeling good about that. Gotta have clean edges in there somewhere. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so here's the thing. This may be one of those times where you can sort of fudge the 1/3 rule. If you're gonna be gone for a little while, you really only have a couple of options. If you don't wanna come back to an overgrown mess, there's a few things you can do. Here's what they are. Number one. That's one. You can go ahead and cut it a little shorter like I just did. I went down to about 1.5 inches is where I cut this today. So I left it down. Now, there's a couple of things to note here. Number one, is it gonna stress out the grass a little bit? Yes, so we'll get into the watering part in a minute. That's fine, not really too worried about that. Second, your options here are kind of limited on that overgrown mess. One thing you can do is you can apply a PGR. You can put something out like N-ext, you could use that anew. There's different things you can put out that will slow down the top growth of your turf. But there's really only a couple of reasons to do that, and here's why I don't, number one, and you know, when and why that might be a good idea for you. So here's the thing. I've been spoon feeding this lawn, so now we're on week 5 now. We've got, next week will be the last week I run with the green pop, so we've got just 2 more applications. I still have to do one today. I'll do one again next week, and then that's it. And then we'll be back over on the other lawn, treating that on its 6-week cycle, and it's just looking fantastic, so we're good to go there. Now, because I'm spoon feeding, I'm not pushing a ton of top growth. The grass isn't growing at a super high rate of speed, so I'm not really too terribly worried about it growing really long while I'm gone. Now, the second thing is, it's cool season turf. And with cool season turf, it's not gonna grow that much anyway because we're in the heat of summer. So this isn't really a stressor for me. Now, for those of you who have St. Augustine or Bermuda, and you might be cutting your Bermuda really low, this is probably a time where you might want to get out and put some N-ext down or something like that, just to slow down the top growth, so when you come back, it's not really a bear and you don't stress it out too much when you mow when you return. For you St. Augustine folks, especially people that are down in Florida or maybe in South Texas right now who are getting those summer rains and things, this is a time when actually the grass is surging and growing a lot. It is something that you can put a growth regulator down on. That would be fine. It would kind of slow it down, but you're still going to have a pretty significant growth when you go back. So again, this may be one of those times where you can just go ahead and cut it a little lower than you normally would. Don't butcher it by any means, but a little lower, so that when you do get back into town, you aren't actually going to damage it and have to do some major recovery. So the next thing to do is make sure that your watering is okay. Now, there's a lot of you, like me, who have no irrigation, who you're just going to use a hose or something like that. And there's a couple of options on the way that can work. And so we're gonna look at sort of a cheap throwaway version of one that I'm gonna use this week and just show you how I'm gonna have this thing set up to give at least some water while I'm out of town. Now, the big difference here is I know that the coverage isn't going to be spectacular. So there's going to be areas of the lawn that are going to dry out and get crispy, like there are already. Those areas I have to supplementally water anyway, because one large sprinkler won't get everything, and it's never really enough to hit these hard edges that are by rocks or that are covered by the playground or things like that. That takes a little more movement. So I know right off the bat I'm gonna have some suffering, so it'll be fun when getting back into town. We'll see how long it takes to actually just recover those with getting good water on them and just bringing everything back out. So that'll be coming up in the next video. Okay, so a couple of things here. What I'm actually gonna be using for the time I'm gone is this guy. First of all, in my opinion, these are throwaways. okay? It's not something that's gonna last you a long time. Don't let this be what you count on all the time. For this week, 15 or 18 bucks or whatever this thing cost me, I think it's gonna be a good one. Now, normally, and when I talk about throwaway stuff, this is also kind of garbage. Now, it does work, but they break. And they break a little too easily. So this was the old one, and this thing is just busted here at the top, just cracked open. Nothing to do with, you know, oh. Okay, so these, again, not a long-term fix. You know, ultimately, irrigation is going to be your friend. Real irrigation, in-ground irrigation, that kind of thing. So, but for this exercise, we're gonna be putting this guy on. So, I think for this week, I'm basically just going to be running one big impact sprinkler. And again, I know it's not gonna cover everything, but I wanna make sure that there's water getting to the body of the grass, because that's really the main concern. I can clean up the edges, I can fix all of that stuff, but you know, that's an area that I wanna make sure is okay. So, you know, it is what it is. One thing I think that is important to note, these things do run on AAA batteries. So before you go and make a video about something that requires batteries, it's a good idea to make sure you have the batteries. Fortunately for me, I just carry AAA batteries around in my pocket all the time. So, you know, that's cool. All right, bad boy. Get this thing on here. Hose it up. Okay, let's run through some settings. I guess first things first, we probably need to set the clock, right? It is not 1:01 p.m. Actually, it's 1:03 p.m. How the heck did that happen? Okay, well that was easy. So then number 2, time start. When do we want to start these things? I'm actually gonna run these pretty early in the morning. So let's get back into the early AMs, because it's up here, I tend to get an awful lot of wind in the afternoon, and so that's not really gonna work well for me. So we're gonna get it down when the sun's coming up, roughly around 5:30 in the morning up here. All right, we'll do it at 5:30, and we're gonna run it for 30 minutes. And there we go. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna be doing is using this sprinkler right here. I think I showed you guys this in the last video. But anyway, this thing puts out about 5 gallons a minute. And one of the biggest things about setting up manual sprinklers, especially if you're not gonna be around, is if you don't have like the big sled base, which are considerably more stable, just setting them into the ground, it will be tipped over and in terrible shape when you get home. So having a nice firm base, and again, these aren't usually the best things for that, except for I have sort of a special tool that kind of helps me make sure this is a good one. Check this out. Old Stumpy. Works perfectly. Okay, so now I'm just going to do just a quick manual just to make sure this thing is working the way it's supposed to. So, just all you have to do is this. Click that like that. And pretty much it should just start. As long as I don't get any heavy wind, this is actually covering pretty well right now. It's going from my fence all the way over to the other side. It's gonna catch me right here a little bit. There we go. So I'm all the way up to the top, which is good. So it is actually covering off as much as I need it to. However, if there is a stitch of breeze, it will miss big sections in here. So again, it is what it is, but it's important to make sure that you've got your irrigation, however that's gonna look, dialed in before you leave town. Check your timers, check your start times, check all that stuff, because it's one of the worst feelings in the world to come back home and have just big dead patches because one thing was screwed up. So that's tip number 2. Hey, brought you something. It's your favorite ice cold water. Yeah, I know. No, so listen,
No, everything's fine. It's fine. Just, let me get that. It's better. I gotta go out of town. Yeah. No, I know it has been a while. I know I've really enjoyed it too. It's been nice to get to spend extra time with you. But no, now listen, don't worry. Yeah, no, I brought you water. No, I'm not trying to butter you up. I just need you to just hear me out. Just hear me out. No. Look, when I'm out of town, you know me, I might check out other lawns. I might hang on. I might check them out. But I'm not going to roll around with them. I mean, I might roll around on them a little. Just don't worry about that. I'm not bringing any other grass home. You don't really have to worry about that at all. So I'm going to make sure that you've got everything you need. Okay? We'll see if anybody can come and check on you while I'm gone. It's going to be just fine. And no, you don't have to. Here, drink this. Just shh. That's better. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, good. Right? So I love you. You're the best. Just stay here, stay green. Try to, enjoy the sun a little bit. It's going to be really nice. And when I come back, I'll show you all the pictures and stuff. And don't worry, it's going to be wonderful. I will get right back out here and just make sure everything is just the way it's supposed to be, the way you like it. Don't worry, okay? So I'll be gone. It's just a few days, but I'll be back soon. That's a good one. Okay, bye.
All right, so that's pretty much it. There's really not a whole lot to worry about. And that's the one thing that I can just keep saying over and over and over and over again on this channel is don't panic, don't worry, but just make sure you cover your bases. Like I said, not a bad time to break the 1/3 rule. Make sure your irrigation is set up. Even if it's a janky little system like this, it's going to make sure that the grass stays alive. And right, I can expect a certain level of loss to happen here. It's kind of inevitable. It's going to be in the 90s, and we're at like 14% humidity, southerly winds every afternoon. It's torture for grass that is not getting irrigated. It's just going to brown right out. So we're still going to keep that kind of low. I'm going to give it one heavy soaking before I leave town and then let it just run off this timer, and I think everything's going to be great. So I'll see you when I get back. Talk to you real soon. Later.